Imagine stepping into a world where chaos is replaced by order and collaboration is seamless. And every keystroke is a step towards clarity. Now, let me introduce you to a super savvy assistant that transforms this imagination into reality. It is called version control. Hi, guys, welcome once again to Tech Mastery Hub with Oladeji. Today, we'll be diving into that powerful world of version control using Git and GitHub. Picture version control as that assistant that helps us to keep track of changes in our code, collaborate seamlessly, and to avoid chaos that can arise without these things. Now, whether you're a developer, a student, or someone curious about collaborating on projects, understanding version control is crucial. So let's get started with this. So first, what is version control? Now, all right, let's imagine you're working on a project. Without version control, it's like painting on a canvas without the undo button. Version control is that magical undo button for coding. What do I mean? It allows us to track changes in our code, collaborate with others, and save different versions of our project over time. Let me introduce you to this thing called Git. Think of Git as a friendly robot that remembers every change you make to your code. It doesn't just track the changes, it also helps to travel back in time to any point in your project history. It's like having a time machine on your code. So now, how do we start? Let's look at how installing Git can be. Time to get our hands on to bring Git into our coding playground. We need to install it on our computers. Don't worry, it's an easy process. Just follow these steps based on your operating system, and soon you'll have Git ready to roll. Now, if you're using Windows system, just watch along as I show you whatever I'm doing. If you're using Windows, for example, first you need to go to the URL that is displayed on the screen, download Git from there, okay, run the installer, and follow the process through the installation. However, if you're using if you're using Mac operating system, you use brew install Git, just like what I have written. Okay, so that's how you're going to do it on my Mac operating system. However, after you have finished the installation on Windows, type git -- version. Okay, this will show you the version of Git you have installed. Now, what are we talking about here? By installing this Git, we're talking about putting it on our local machine at the point. Okay, now this is something we want. Whatever, say maybe our project on our local computer, we want the Git to handle it locally first. We'll show the stage where we'll share this with online stuff. Okay, so let's proceed. After installing, the next thing we need to do now is we set up our Git. How do we do that? Now that Git is part of our coding toolkit, let's personalize it a bit. Now we'll set our name and email to let Git know who is behind the magic. Okay. Also, we'll initialize it in our project folder, creating a special place in our code history. Let's see how this is done. First, let's do git config global user.name. At this point you put your name, put enter. So what we have done now is we have configured it to recognize who the user is, in this case your name. Okay, in a similar way, git config, okay, global user.email, type in your email address. Okay, so now that's at the point of configuring the username and the email, so that it will be in the code history. Now, we need to initialize the Git in our directory. So how do we go about this? I will want to, okay, let's look at it this way first. Say Git init. That's as simple as that to initialize it, okay? And eventually we can say Git config, and you list all the configurations you have. But in a more ideal way, let's create a local repository. Now, time to create our project, okay? Now, let's call it a repository, or as we may fondly call it, maybe secret layer, project secret layer, okay? Now, this is where Git will keep track of all our changes as we're working on a particular project. So in my case now, I will do, let me create this directory. Now let's assume this directory I've created is where my projects want to be. Now when we're talking about projects here, this could be any project. Your coding projects, software development project, your, what do you call it, data analytics projects, okay? Now this is my working directory, or this is going to be my working directory. So subsequently, anything I have in this folder can be pushed on, okay? So now that I have my directory, be it there are files in it already or they are not, I'm going to do Git init here now. So I'm particularly initializing this project. Hope we're getting that. So now for my local stuff, I've initialized it. Now let's check the status. So I'll do Git status, okay? Now that changes stuffs for me, okay? So it's as simple as that to make the initial settings. Now next, we will now be talking about the core operations of it. What are the core operations? Now let's make some magic happen. We'll create or modify files in our project and ask Git to take note of these changes, okay? It's like telling our robot assistant, hey, remember this part, I might want to come back to it. So we're writing a code, okay? And we want Git to track everything we are doing per time, so that at any point we can always come back to it. So how do we do this? Often there are three things you'll be dealing with most often. You'll be adding, you'll be committing, you'll be pushing or pulling, okay? We'll see how all those play out one after the other. But here first, I'm going to do, let's create a file first. Okay, so I'm going to create a file that we can play around with in our folder now, as you can see, okay? So I just copied an existing file and placed there. So we'll play around with this. So now what I'm going to do is, let's add this to our Git. So I'm saying Git add the file name. Another way you can go about this is, let's say we have so many contents, you don't know exactly which has changed. Rather than just saying maybe Git add a particular file name, we could just say Git add dot. It will take everything, okay? Now, once you have added, it's like loading a airplane. Do you get it? It's like, people are filing up to load up into a airplane at the point of adding. Now, we do Git commit. This commits every changes. What do we mean by commit? They are fully boarded. They have been checked in to the aircraft. Everybody is seated. The flight is about to take off, okay? Then, Git push. The flight takes off. I don't know if you get the illustration, but it's as simple as that. Now, as we will see along the line, there's pull and there's push, okay? But we'll get into more details. Now, let's look at our commit history. You can do Git log to show you your commit history. Now, these basic changes, okay, about how to start with making changes on our Git that we have created. Also, we have branches and we can merge these branches. What do we mean by branches? Our projects can alternate reality. We can work on different features, okay, in separate branches and then merge them together. It's like telling Git, let's explore different ideas without messing up with the main project. Now, let's say we are collaborating, maybe 3 people in a team are collaborating on a particular project. We have our main repository, okay? In some instances, it's called master repository, okay? So let's say we have our main repository where the main project is. Now, we can create repository 1, or branch 1 rather, and branch 2 and branch 3 for each of the users. So you are working on the user interface, you are working on the what do you call it, the sign-in authentication, and you are working on maybe one other feature. So for each of these users in the team, we have a branch. So my work goes into my branch, yours goes into your branch. So it's like we're creating branches that's not exactly messing up with the main. At the end of the day, we can merge each of these things we're doing into that main branch, okay? And that's the beauty of this collaborative part of using Git. So now we'll say Git branch. Now that's creating a new branch, okay? What I just did now is creating a new branch. Now let's switch to it. So I'll say Git checkout, my new branch name. That switches to the branch I just created, okay? Now we make changes to a file. That's our file. Now let's make certain changes so that something has changed in the file. So now we're going to switch back to the main or the master. Okay, so what we simply do is, remember when we created a new Git, we used checkout to switch to it. So we're going to go back to the main. So we say Git checkout main or checkout master, depending on which one you're using. This switches us back, okay? Now we want to merge features. You remember when we switched to the new branch, we made an amend there and pushed there. So in this, we want to merge them. So Git merge. It's as simple as that. Okay. Now, haven't done this. These are just basics, of course. I'll show a couple of samples. Haven't done this. Let's get introduced to the GitHub. You know, we've been talking about Git. That is what we're doing on our local system, in our local space. Now, GitHub. Let's take the project to the cloud. GitHub is that cloud. Is that online, our project's online clubhouse. It's where we can store our code. It's where we can collaborate with others more effectively. Okay? Now, it's where we showcase our awesome work to the world. Okay? I can have a project and put in GitHub and make it public for people to see, maybe for future employers, or just to teach people, or anything, or to share with my team that is not exactly beside me. Okay, so everything we have been doing before now is locally on our system. My branch is on my system, your branch is on your system. Okay, we push it to GitHub now. It becomes, visible to more than one person. We could make it private, as we will see. So first things first, we need to create our GitHub account. Okay, we'll create a GitHub account. Watch me in a few minutes as I quickly create one. Okay, so we'll create a GitHub account just like this. Once you have created it, remember we're connecting it to our Git. So let's showcase our project to the world by pushing our local changes to GitHub. It's like telling, hey, share this amazing work with others. Follow these steps, and soon you be in touch properly, as in get in tune with what I've been talking about, literally about Git and GitHub. So here, I'm going to add a remote repository to GitHub. So now, Git remote add. That repository I have on my system is what I'm trying to add, to the GitHub repo now. Okay. So I'm going to say Git push origin main. Okay. Now, what have I done here? That command Git origin push dash u and push. Excuse me. Git push dash u origin main that I just wrote. Okay. Now, subsequently, you may just make it git push origin main. Let me explain. That -u, which is like upstream, set upstream, okay, option is used to set up tracking relationship between the local branch and the remote branch, between that Git on the system and that GitHub, the repo online, okay? Now, when you use -g, Git remembers remote repository and branch. So the future Git push or pull commands may not necessarily need that -u. Do you get it? So at some point it is optional. Subsequently, it may not be. You will see how we'll continue without it in the sections to come. So now there's also something we call the pull request. I've been talking about push. Push, okay, like I illustrate with the aircraft, you add, you commit, that's like button, you push. Now, you have pushed some codes initially, or maybe someone else have pushed some codes. You want to push to the same main branch. Remember, he has pushed what you don't have. You have to pull first. So pull request is like sending invitation to your coding party. I've done this, come along. So you're asking others to review, to discuss, and to eventually merge your changes. I don't know if we're getting it. So you pull, then you push. Right? So now, to summarize all this, Git remote add adds a reference to a remote repository with, okay? Git pull fetches. Are we getting it? Pull fetches, while Git push sends. In a few minutes, I will just run us through a few codes, a few examples. I'm going to do, let's check a Git account, okay? We'll check a Git account, we'll check a working directory, we'll change working directory to another Git account, we'll push from one Git repo to another Git repo entirely. So just watch me as I do some of these things quickly. Haven't seen some of those examples, of the basic things we do when we're using, Git and GitHub. Now, let me tell you once again the importance of version control. Let's recap our version control, that it's a superhero of our coding. Now, it helps us to track changes, to collaborate seamlessly, and it provides, a safety net for our projects. Git and GitHub, our trusty sidekicks in our coding adventure, as used in this video. So once again, let's quickly run through a summary of the commonly used Git and GitHub commands. Okay, I will put a quick description or maybe comment to show each of that, and I'm also going to paste these commonly used codes in the description box. You've just unlocked the secrets of version control with Git and GitHub. Remember, coding is an ongoing adventure, and version control is your loyal companion. Keep coding, keep collaborating, and make your projects come alive. Share, okay? If you have enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe, to share, okay, and to like. Thank you once again for joining us on today's episode of Tech Mastery Hub with your guy Oladeji. See you again next week. Cheers.